welcome to another episode. Today my guest is Tim Chugh. Tim is president of Epic Education, and Epic Education provides all sorts of corporate training, whether it's engineering or management or IT or many different areas. Tim, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure, Gurmeet. I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, welcome. So tell us a little bit about your journey. Before you get into Epic, what you were doing before, Tim?
So really, for me, I actually I grew up, and I've been working at Epic my entire life. I actually
Uh,
started when I was a teenager as a data entry individual,
mhm,
and over the course of the years, I worked myself up to the president today. So it's been a long journey. I've
mhm,
only worked at Epic my entire career. Epic is it's a family owned business. My own family owns it. It was
mhm.
started by my own grandfather in 1992,
Wow.
and then really fast forward to about 9 years after that, my own father got involved with the business, and at one point, my father and grandfather were running the entire organization, and then when I finished university, I basically made the decision to join Epic, and I've been with Epic since 2003.
Oh, okay. So what have you seen for last, I would say, so many years that you were your family running before? What do you these any fundamental changes in the training business and how people approaching a training in the companies?
It's been major change. We've seen, and really too, from the time that when the company was first created in 1992. We were you just can see the progressive change, even with internally the changes that we've made as an organization, and how we've had to adapt to the engineers and what their training requirements are over the years. So it's been we've seen a lot of change
Hmm.
over the course of our 28 years.
Did that some of that changes become more digital training, or is it still instructor-led training? What do you see that blend on those? People like to sit on one-on-one with the training, or is it, what is the business direction on that? Are they more inclined to digital, or is it still in person-to-person instructor-led training?
So, for a number of years, that's what we really did. If we want to call it now in this, pre-COVID, for 27 years, what we were doing was we were offering classroom-based learning, instructor, attendees, connecting the two of them. They would teach in a classroom either at our facility here in Mississauga or
Hmm.
at a hotel across the country. And now with COVID and the pandemic, and over the past 13 months, we've really had to come in and we've transitioned everything from classroom to online.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's been a very, very challenging year, certainly, and really, to put it quite frankly, back in March and April of 2020, we were in a situation we were wondering, does it even make sense to continue? The pandemic really did
Ah. Hmm.
hit us hard, and at that time, I made the decision. No, let's transition this business. Let's move it forward. So
Hmm.
I actually see now the pandemic. It's a blessing in disguise, really, for my business.
Wow. Yeah, what I'm hearing from business leader during the pandemic, training becomes such a critical piece of moving business forward. You need to still educate, your staff. You still need to train. You cannot do without it. It just became so critical for a lot of businesses. For your business, that's a key for any business growth. The training, without a training, how do you move forward? So when you talking to the business leaders or the company management, what obstacle are you seeing, Tim, from your side? Is company on a management, are they inclined to investment in the training, or are they holding back? Where do you see that pushback? What are you trying to do in your business?
So right now, unfortunately, I wish that in the world we live in, I'm a true believer that training is an essential part of any business.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the reality is that it's viewed as non-essential. And a lot of companies too, when I do speak to leaders of other organizations, they know they need training for their people, but it gets put on the back burner. It's never priority for companies. And my hope is that with all the change that we've seen during the pandemic,
Mhm.
I'm hopeful that we'll see a shift in people's mindset, and they will, see training as something essential, and something that we all need to do continuously.
So why do you think that is, Tim? That they seeing that it puts training in the back burner. This should be critical part of any business process. If somebody wants to grow a business, what better way that training your people and get a bigger return on your payroll. So why do you think that is that people put training in the back burner and get to it whenever they can, not a critical piece of their ongoing process?
I think what it is, the focus is still very much so that an individual may have their daily tasks which they have to do, so they're more fixated on that. But I'm also looking at the fact that now that we've also changed how we work, and there's that formal setting of an office is now taken out of the equation, and really now that we're online, we're really giving the opportunity for people to um, train it really at any time. Like
Mhm.
that's what my hope is that, and we're even moving in even in terms of a more of an on-demand model where if someone has to work during the course of the day, we'll have options in the evening, um
Mhm.
or or then, and if you have something that's pre-recorded, then they can listen to it anytime, right?
You can
So
run it from any device at anywhere you are.
right, exactly, yes.
Yeah, I that is a challenge. I definitely go through this challenge, which you just mentioned that, yeah, we have to sacrifice some of the daily activity. There's a workload, everybody has a workload, and squeezing training into the workload itself is a challenge. But not squeezing a training in, that's another risk that you fall behind, right? So
Yeah,
you gotta find a balance between that. There's only 40 hours in a work week, and how many can you sacrifice for training? That's
right.
a tough call for any business leader to make, but not making the call is also have a risk associated to other side.
Yes, it does. It definitely does. And the other thing too, Gurmeet, I'm looking at the fact that, I think that, how we work, because we're working remotely, and now people have understood that they're managing their work life, they're managing their personal life. So everything is now merged. What used to, if you want to say something, what used to be black and white has now become a gray area, right? So even how we
Mhm.
work, we may not that conventional 9 to 5
Yeah,
is now out the window.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So people's thinking has changed, and that's where we've seen that even with our enrollments online, people are registering for courses. There is still a need. So I think 20, I'm looking forward to 2021 to see what transpires in terms of what is that, what's that work life going to look like? Are people going to be part-time in the office, part-time
Mhm.
at home? And I think that's going to play a key role even in terms of when people can, um, you know, take that break for training. So
Mhm. Yeah, the 8 to 5, that frameworks no longer exists, but it does provide flexibility for people as well, right? If you have to take some, household chores in between, you can do that, and then you can put a little bit of time after hours, right?
right,
My staff is doing that. So training probably is one of those key, elements. But listen, during the day, I don't have a time. Can I take some of the training after work hours or before work hours and move it around?
right, exactly.
If you have that flexibility, I think that will work out, for everybody.
Yes, it will. Yes.
Okay.
And I think the other reality too, Gurmeet, is that when, when we did shift to online, I would, and I still do this from time to time, I would just, I would sign in to one of our courses just to see and have a discussion with the instructor and have a discussion with the attendees. And the
Mhm.
first thing that I noted was that people didn't have their camera on.
Wow.
So encouraging. So you kind of, then the other piece that you wonder is that someone may have signed up for a course, they've turned their camera off, they may have a headset on, and they're listening, but you wonder if they're doing other things as well, right? So the
Wow.
focus, you
Yeah.
you wonder that as well. That piece is there, but the parallel that I compare that to is that even if someone was in a classroom and they're attending the same course, they could have their smartphone in front of them and be looking at that and still be distracted, right? So
Mhm, mhm.
so what I'm trying to say here is that people could essentially, sign into a course, take the course, sign up, listen to it and be doing other things through the
I mean,
course of the day, right?
that's the human nature you can't control.
That's right.
The way we approach that, Tim, is we break it down training into very, very small segments. So instead of hour training, how about if we divide that, 3 minutes or 4 minute training every day, and one on a frequency, every day, there's no exception. Every day you got to do 5 minute training instead of. That's what I find that's been working for us. But I'm sure a lot of other business leaders, they're trying to find a way around how to pass that information on to businesses.
Right.
But one of the thing one of the item I hear usually from my clients or other business leaders is the onboarding. Every time they hire new, companies who are going through expansions, they're hiring new employees. New staff always need more training than anybody else. What are you hearing in that area? That how do they train new people? How do they bring them up to speed? Do you guys be a part of that process as well?
So, really, our business is primarily we're more on the continuing education side.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really in terms of the onboarding when someone is, being onboarded to a new organization, they're, really that's something we don't play a role in.
Okay.
I know that I haven't been in terms of doing the pandemic time here. I haven't been in a situation where I've actually brought someone new in quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
My hope is I will be in that spot later this year. But I've heard that, I think what seems to be working these days in some of the discussions I've had with other, business leaders is that, Zoom is quite effective.
Mm-hmm.
I've even heard the idea of, if an individual feels safe to meet, people are, you can meet one to one at a remote location somewhere. So
Yeah.
but I don't have any experience. It's really just hearing about it right now.
Yeah. Okay. So if you walk us, our audience, people who are listening, Tim, what areas of training you get into? I know I see a lot of engineering training on your site, a lot of management training. So if you just give a rundown, what area you provide training in a large or small corporations?
Sure. So really, too, we are our big three disciplines are civil engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of our courses are tailored to those three disciplines, and we typically do about anywhere between 275 to 300 courses every year, and
Okay.
those are the big three that we really follow.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times too, yeah, we what typically happens for us is that we have an individual who comes to a course, and then they he or she then if they like the course, they go back to their respective organization, and
Mm-hmm.
then they tell their manager, what, let's bring this training on site for
Okay.
our group. And that's so but those are civil, to answer your question, is civil, mechanical, and electrical are the big three.
I see. How about management training? So do business leaders or management get involved in the training as well? Do they train themselves as well, or just the staff that takes the training, the technical staff?
It's right now the technical staff, and a lot of the courses that we do offer, we do have courses that help that technical individual when they are moving into a managerial role.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few courses to help them make that transition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really what it is that in some of the discussions that I've had with attendees and the instructors that put on these courses for us, it's challenging. You have a technical expert who is quite brilliant, understands what's happening, but when it comes time to communicating it, they can't, right?
Wow.
So it's challenging, and engineers are they're a unique group of individuals, and they want to be in management roles, but they need to be taught some skills before to get there, and when we have courses that help them get there.
Are some of those soft skills, or they all hard skills? Like is it communication skills or management skills, or is it simply engineering skills? What area does that fall in?
It's the soft skills. They need that, right? And then that's and I've seen that throughout the course of my career that they're individuals, they're brilliant, and they just can't communicate effectively, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a reality, and with engineers, and that's something that we want to help them overcome those barriers and we move beyond them.
I mean, those skills, soft skills, that apply to every field you can think about. But
Correct.
my area is the same way. We can find you know, very technical, confident people in a lot of technical skills, but they're short on the business and soft skills. But that's a challenge I think every business deals with.
Right. Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
so where you see their mindset is on a training? Do you see any pushback from that from a training on that side, and how much customized training you have to provide for these folks? Do you guys customize based on the skill set or based on the company needs, or is this a standard training that you guys deliver?
So we do, if we're in a situation where we're doing some group online training for a specific organization, we would then, we would work with them to figure out what is required by their team, and really we would customize and tailor the course to
Okay.
suit that, right? So
Hmm.
and those the soft skill, those are, that involves a lot of one-to-one with the instructor and the attendee, because we also, that's the only way. Like, you put these individuals in a setting of a classroom or online now, and may not necessarily be fully comfortable, to come out of their shell. So that's why we'll have some
Hmm.
one-to-one and with the instructor and the attendee to figure things out.
So is that soft skill training, Tim, is a one time, either on a camera or in person, or is it a repetitive training that has to be practiced over the time as well? Learning soft skills is one thing, but repeating that over and over the same behavior until you get practice to get over those skill sets. Is that which way you guys go? Just one time? Is it an ongoing stuff as well?
It's a one-time thing, but in this, where the instructor sets the attendee up to that, it is ongoing.
Hmm.
You just can't, you can't walk into a course and take it for, 2 or 3 days and then expect to be,
Yeah.
ready to go. So you have to, it's something you have to, constantly and continually work on.
Hmm. Where you think the training is going, even after the pandemic is over, where you think that the training is going to be always going to be online, you think, or is going to shift back to in offices? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a very good question for me. You know, I've been, playing around with the idea in my own head.
Yeah.
I can, online is nice. I'm under the impression it'll be more of a hybrid. I think that there will be one day where you just come into a facility and have that conversation, have that discussion. But I think majority of the training now will take place online.
I see.
That's what I think. Yeah.
How about an instructor side? You deal with a lot of instructors who provide a training. How are they feeling with the COVID? A lot of them, they have an educational background, or is it easy to find instructors that during the COVID, or what do you see in that area?
So we have instructors that have embraced online, and they're quite happy the fact that we've done this, and they really like the fact that they can do this training from their respective home, or some of our
Hmm.
instructors are in work in the university setting. They might use their office at the university. So they like that, and then we've had instructors who've just come out and said, I I'll try online. They've tried it and they did not like it, and they said that, look, I'll teach with Epic again once the pandemic is over and you're back in a classroom. So it's a mix.
Hmm.
I think and some of the feedback I've also received to instructors like the idea of travel,
Hmm.
and they enjoy the opportunity to network with the course attendees, and have that time with them.
Hmm.
And they're saying that with online, excuse me, they're not getting that.
Yeah, the experience is not there. The social
No,
aspect of the training, that definitely is not going to be there.
right.
During this COVID, a lot of compliance coming down as on a businesses, especially the banks, so information security compliance. There's so many different compliance. Do you guys get into any ISO compliance training, or any kind of in a process training, or any security compliance training? Do you get into that area as well?
We don't, but we do have some instructors that are available to do that type of training. So if we do have a potential client that's looking for that, it's something that we can look to arrange. Yes.
Right. Is that changing market all the time? Because the new compliance coming down and new security, specs coming down to businesses, that's got to be changing. Do you guys change training and customize based on what's going on in the market, or is it a standard, the same kind of principle?
We customize it what's happening in the market, and even with our instructors, we see them, they're subject matter experts, and the instructors that continue to work for us and do well for us are the ones that are in tune with industry, and they're recognizing the changes, and they're adapting what they teach and the material provided to the attendees as they go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important for Epic too. We do, course evaluations are sent to all our attendees, and that's the other thing too, that when we went from from classroom to online, we also moved our course evaluations from paper to digital. And
Mm-hmm.
what I appreciate now is that when an attendee receives a digital evaluation over a paper one, they're very open in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what they think about the course.
I see.
Um, because they just feel it's more anonymous. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing it after the course.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Gurmeet, we've got some really honest feedback,
Wow.
and we share that with our instructors
Wow.
to improve, and
Yeah.
it's refreshing, so it's
Yeah.
nice to see that.
It's a learning for both sides, right? The students
Correct.
are learning, but also instructor is learning curve for them as well, right? They always get
Correct.
feedback and the learning. It's a great opportunity.
Yes, definitely.
So, so a lot of business leaders, I know they, during this pandemic, they everybody's trying to build their strategy, build their, the plans, how they're going to get back to revenue level as soon as this pandemic is over. Hopefully in the 40 days, next 30, 40 days, we'll get up, 40% people vaccinated. Everybody's back to, the fully operational. What do you recommend for those business leaders trying to build that, their roadmap for the business strategy or business planning for, I know, past COVID? What would you recommend? How they need to look at training and fit into their business planning, ongoing basis? How should they approach the training? What are your recommendation there?
I think that they should really have that discussion with their team. And I think that once we're yeah, like you said, once we're, hopefully the next 30, 40 days, people are vaccinated and we are getting some of that normality, and they should just look now, because and organizations are going to look completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also looking at the fact that there may be people that, a team of, 30, maybe a team of 15.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be some shortfalls within the team, and someone's going to have to really pick up the slack. So I think really this would be a good time for, leaders of organizations to talk to their team members and say, what training do you need,
Mm-hmm.
and have that discussion, and and really, because and then go from there. And then we're here as one of the providers. So many, I'm looking at this way too, that training is training, and you have to be continually learning. So
Yeah.
if Epic doesn't have a course, I'm always more than happy to
Mm-hmm.
suggest another place for somebody, another
Yeah.
organization.
I mean, without a training, if you can train people the way we all have a standard skill set, but the way we do things in every company, that could be different. So that if you don't train your people how you run a business operations on a daily basis, you're really not making your people productive the way they should be.
Right.
So if I'm a business leader, I need to plan a training part of my business strategy. I need to build that into ongoing process. But how do I do a gap analysis, Tim? How do I find out what training my people need? Do I just go by business? My business need to run this way. I need to provide this training, or do I find is there a way to do some sort of gap analysis? Where are people at? What training they need for them to get to this point?
So I think that really, as a business leader, once you have your plan and objectives in place, in terms of where you want to see your business over the next 3 years, let's say. and
Mm-hmm.
and, and once you figure that out, then yes, it's one thing to hear what your team members are, what they want to have trained on. But once you're, as a leader, once you're clear on where your company is going, then yes, then you can be the one that determines, okay, you know what, Gurmeet, you need to take this course, and
Mm-hmm.
so on. So it's I think really what it is that the leadership needs to communicate with their team, and really in terms of just to find out what training is needed. And
Mm-hmm.
it has to be a priority. And I really think that when you are planning for the next 3 years, you should allocate a training budget, and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that your team members do use it every year.
Mm-hmm. Do you get any feedback from business leaders who committed to training ongoing basis? Their revenue growth or their efficiencies in terms of productivity compared to the not taking. Do you get any feedback from these people that
We
who did?
do, and and anyone, it does. You do see positive growth. When you have an individual who's trained, you do see positive growth. You definitely do. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, somebody mentioned that while I think we got Ontario that the alarm coming up.
Yes, we do.
They buzz every device out there when
Whew.
there's an emergency. So yeah, no, definitely that's a great feedback. When somebody investing time and effort, they see result in other side in their training as well,
They do.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So the companies who do the training, I heard somebody make a comment say, if I train my people and they leave, and somebody said, well, how about if you don't train and they don't leave? Which way is better?
Yeah.
So it's always better. Hey, listen, you better rather train your people. If they leave, at least you're getting a better result out of them when they're working with you.
Right. And and that's the thing too. Like, I say this to my own team that, we're in the business of helping individuals get better through training. And
Mhm.
so my thinking always is like, I encourage them take courses, like, and if you stay with Epic, great. If you're not with Epic, that's great too. Because ultimately, you know, learning is a journey.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to be constantly learning throughout your life. And I am part of an executive group, and the leader of that organization puts it quite nicely. He says, really, when you stop learning, you should consider digging your own grave,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we need to evolve.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So let me ask you this tricky question. How many business leaders you see they take a training before they put their staff through training? Do you, or just approximately ratio? Do you see a lot of business owners going through themselves and training and before they put their staff through it?
I do, yes. I've seen that in a number of instances where, and that's the other thing too. Sometimes as a leader of the organization, you have to be the one that learns first and
Exactly.
understand, because you have to be, um, if you're not doing it, then how can you expect your team to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Leaders not willing to go through. Most business leader I know, they're all, they're lifetime learner. They learn all, personal development, business development. They always learn. They're reading books. They're going through it. So I know a lot of business leaders put themselves, but there's a lot of business leaders they don't want to take a training, but they want to send their staff to. To me, that's that it should never happen that way. You need to know if you're managing, if you're managing engineering, you need to know what training they gone through, what their understanding is, so you can manage people better. I think it just makes you a better leader.
definitely. Yes, for sure.
Okay, good stuff. So where can people find you? Where can they find more information on Epic, Tim? And where can they connect with you?
Definitely. So, you're more than welcome to, visit epictraining.ca.
Okay.
All of our courses are there. Um, and really too, you're more than welcome to, you can contact me directly.
Okay.
Um, my email address, it's I don't know if I should.
No, don't worry.
No,
I know when we send this
go ahead.
video out, we'll
Okay,
put all your contact information in an
perfect.
email as well. So if
Okay,
somebody needs to reach out to you, they'll have
they're
your
more
email
than, yes,
address. Yeah.
yes.
So your phone number,
I'm
I'll put there as well.
Yes,
Mhm.
I'm always here to help. That's my approach. Is that really too that, I'll be the first to always say that, um, I don't know everything, but I have a network that if I don't know the answer to something, I'll get the answer. So
Beautiful.
I'm more than happy
Beautiful.
to help.
Okay. Any last piece of advice for business leaders who are trying to grow their business, they're trying to scale up, and they looking for past COVID, and they're trying to come other side. I know that a lot of them, they're holding back right now. They're simply just waiting for this COVID to be over so they can excel in a business. Any piece of advice you can share for these folks?
Certainly, my recommendation, something that, I learned at the early days of the pandemic, was to document everything, write
Mhm.
everything down, keep a, if you want to call it, a journal of everything that you do, because the first few months of the pandemic were everything was happening at such a rapid pace, and
Yeah.
change is being constantly thrown at us. It's still happening today, but if you document everything correctly and have a list of what you changed and what you did, and the dates,
Mhm.
you'll be in a much better situation. Yes.
Yeah, especially when you're navigating pandemic like that's we just the one we just going through. You're navigating, you're trying to find a new ways around how to get around it. And when you
Yes,
have a documentation, it's much easier to navigate your way through the whole the issues coming your way when you have everything documented. Or with in a verbal conversation, sometimes we forget who said what and
exactly.
who did in a past. So it's very hard to navigate verbally and discussion wise in terms of documentation. Great
Definitely.
advice. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, perfect. I'll recommend definitely, anybody who's listening, reach out to you, connect with you, and get your take on a training. And we don't make, we training for our organization is not a, optional. It's not a nice to have. For us, it's mandatory. On a daily basis, we train, and I see a result on their site. When you train daily basis your people, you'll see great result on their site. And I would definitely recommend anybody who's considering training or reach out to you and connect with you.
Definitely appreciate that, Gurmeet. Thank you.
So, thank you so much for your time, Tim.
Yeah. Thank you, Gurmeet.
All right, have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Take care. Bye.